What if I told you that the England we know today would never have existed, at least not in the way we recognize it, without a brutal Viking raid in the year 793? That the names of towns, the structure of its laws, and even its language were forever changed by warriors who sailed from the frozen fjords of Scandinavia? This isn't just a story of violence and conquest. It's the tale of how destruction brought rebirth and how pain gave rise to a powerful new identity. The peaceful monks of Lindisfarne had no reason to expect what was coming. Known as the Holy Island, Lindisfarne was one of Christianity's most sacred sites in northern England. But on that fateful June day, longships emerged from the sea mist like ghosts. Screaming warriors rushed the shores, breaking into the monastery, slaughtering the unarmed, and burning centuries of spiritual heritage to the ground. The Christian world was stunned. This wasn't just an attack, it was a symbolic assault on everything sacred. And so the Viking Age began in England, Anne. But what was born from this savage raid would go on to reshape not just the land, but the very soul of the people. The promise of a new order was wrapped in the pain of loss and violence. The name Viking would soon become synonymous with terror. From that moment on, the raids didn't stop. Lindisfarne was just the beginning. Viking longships, sleek, fast and deadly, came ashore, hitting towns and villages like the storm that brings both ruin and renewal. The monasteries, once repositories of knowledge, became prime targets for plunder. The Vikings didn't just seek gold. They sought dominance over a world they were determined to carve out of chaos. By 865, these raids evolved into full-scale invasions. The Great Heathen Army, led by the legendary sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, such as Ivar the Boneless, landed with a singular purpose: conquest. The kingdoms of Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, and East Anglia, once proud and independent, were thrown into turmoil. But the old world was dying, and from the ashes of these wars, a new one would rise. A hybrid civilization, one that blended the ruthless spirit of the Vikings with the cultural depth of the Anglo-Saxons, would soon take shape. In the year 865, the Viking forces weren't just raiders. They were settlers and conquerors. With the creation of the Danelaw, a vast region in northeastern England, the Norsemen weren't merely occupying the land, they were transforming it. Viking customs, language, and laws took root. This was no longer just an invasion, it was the birth of something new. The Danelaw was governed by Norse legal traditions. Justice wasn't written down in laws, but was passed orally, a tradition that would influence English common law. Towns held things or assemblies where disputes were settled, and justice was determined by consensus. This form of participatory justice, where everyone had a say, would become the cornerstone of the jury system that we recognize today. But this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The Viking legacy was not simply political, it was cultural, linguistic, and social. As the Vikings settled in England, they didn't just bring their weapons, they brought their knowledge and expertise. Shipbuilding, ironworking, and farming techniques they had perfected in the frozen lands of Scandinavia were introduced to the English people. The Viking longships, once symbols of terror, became tools of trade, connecting England with distant lands from the east to the west. They opened new trade routes, stretching as far as Constantinople and Baghdad, bringing wealth and new goods to England. The Norsemen, though fierce warriors, were also skilled traders and craftsmen, and their influence would change the very fabric of English life, and in language their impact was profound. Over 1,000 Old Norse words entered the English language, words like sky, knife, husband, law, and anger. These words still echo in the English we speak today. The Vikings were not met without resistance. King Alfred the Great of Wessex, one of the most formidable leaders of his time, rose to the challenge. After years of hiding in marshes and waging guerrilla warfare, Alfred returned to rally his people. He built fortified towns or burhs that would become the backbone of his defense strategy. Alfred's victory wasn't just military, it was symbolic. He didn't simply drive out the invaders, he forced them to the negotiating table. A truce was signed, but it was more than just a peace agreement. It marked the beginning of a new, tentative coexistence. This uneasy peace would set the stage for what was to come, a merging of two worlds, two cultures, and two peoples. The Viking legacy in England wasn't just a tale of bloodshed, it was a story of integration, of cultures blending in unexpected ways. By the early 11th century, England saw another wave of Viking dominance. This time, it came in the form of King Cnut the Great, a Danish ruler who would unite England, Denmark, and Norway into a vast North Sea empire. Cnut was not a conqueror in the traditional sense. His rule was marked by respect for local customs and laws. Under Cnut's reign, England experienced a rare period of peace and prosperity. Cnut patronized the church and maintained Anglo-Saxon laws, securing his place in history not as an invader, but as a ruler who respected the land he ruled. His reign was a testament to the Viking influence on England, a blend of Norse and Anglo-Saxon traditions, creating a new and unified culture. Even after the Norman conquest of 1066, the Viking legacy continued to influence England. William the Conqueror, himself a descendant of Vikings through Rollo of Normandy, seized the English throne. In many ways, the Normans were simply the latest wave of Norsemen, reshaped by French culture and Christian power. The Viking influence, though subtle, was still felt. Today, cities like York, once Jorvik, bear the marks of their Viking past. Archaeological sites, street names, and museum artifacts serve as reminders of a time when Norsemen ruled much of England. The annual Viking festival in York is a celebration of this living history, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Vikings in English culture. The Viking spirit is not a thing of the past. It is alive in the stories we tell, the traditions we celebrate, and the very land we walk on. From the longships that once brought terror to the shores of England to the trade routes that connected distant lands, the Vikings' legacy is woven into the fabric of English identity. Their myths, their gods, Odin, Thor, and Freya, continue to inspire us. The stories of their bravery, their adventures, and their quest for glory live on, not just in ancient texts, but in the hearts of those who celebrate their memory. But the Viking story is not just one of conquest. It is a story of transformation. It is about how a clash of civilizations, Anglo-Saxon and Viking, created something stronger, something richer than either one alone. It's about how pain, loss, and destruction led to the rebirth of a culture, a land, and a people. It's about how the Viking raids, once seen as acts of pure violence, gave way to an exchange of ideas, a fusion of cultures, and a shared future. The Viking story is not just a tale of the past. It is a living part of England's identity today. From the names of towns to the laws that govern us, from the words we speak to the traditions we follow, the Vikings are still here. And so, as you walk through the streets of York, or as you study the ancient ruins of Jorvik, remember this. The Vikings didn't just invade, they built, they created, and they left a legacy that still shapes the world we live in today. If you found this epic tale of Viking conquest inspiring, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. What part of this Viking saga surprised you most? Let's keep this history alive together, one story at a time.